This is The Drive with Dale Lolley and Matt Williamson on your 24/7 home of the black and gold. SNR, Steelers Nation Radio.
And welcome to The Drive. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, it's Tuesday. Steelers had a couple of draft visitors in again today.
Yeah.
Those being Elijah Roberts, the defensive lineman from SMU, and cornerback, kid from Ole Miss, Trey Amos.
Yeah. I like Amos a lot. And he's big. He runs well. He's physical. He plays the ball in the air well. But most importantly, he's a man coverage corner.
Yeah.
I mean, the Steelers, this is going to sound like I'm just crushing Jackson, and in a way I am. But I think he really handicapped what they could do, especially once injuries set in. And
I think the injuries were a big part of it. Yeah.
That they played so much cover three, pretty static shell, Minka in the middle, Porter, Jackson. And they were good at it. I mean, like, people just remember the end. I mean, they were a pretty darn good defense for much of the year. That I think they were a little handcuffed with how much man coverage they could play. You just come down and bang. And frankly, I think that can lead to more sacks. I mean, it can lead to more blitzing. That if you have one corner that you don't trust, and that's where I'm going here with Jackson, who's no longer a Steeler, obviously, and I think they like the new guys better, you can get a lot more aggressive. You can do a lot more things. And the fact that they have Amos in makes me think that clearly they recognize that. And Slay's a man coverage corner.
Right.
You know, I mean, they can do everything. But and still, it's only like 45%. It's not going to play man 99%, you know.
And just from the looks of things, they're covering their bases with a lot of guys who are in that first-round mix.
Yeah. Like, I wonder if they would be considered at 21, or is that also telling us we might not pick at 21?
Or, you're looking at this going, okay, what if worst-case scenario happens? Somebody asked me on a message or on Twitter today, what happens if all the top four defensive tackles are all gone and you're at 21 and you can't move back and you got to pick somebody?
Right. Back to our top 21 list, which maybe Amos should have been on.
Maybe,
I mean, you could write the story where he could be one of those guys in the mix if things go wrong.
But I think if in that vein, again, with our top 21 list, if all those defensive tackles are gone,
go the next
somebody else is going to be available.
You do the math. I mean, there's only 20 people that are going to get picked.
Because there's going to be, we just did another mock draft for Steelers.com today, and I think I had, 3 or 4 edge rushers in my top.
You would have gone early, which I think is very possible. I thought that was a good way of looking at it. Yeah.
Certainly, there's going to be 4 or 5 edge rushers gone by the time the Steelers pick at 21.
So everyone on the planet knows quarterback's the most premium position.
Yeah.
I think pure offensive tackles are next, but it's a conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, some people will say it's edge guys. Give me Bosa, give me Watt,
Look at who the highest paid defensive players
are
all edge rushers.
Exactly,
They're guys that sack the quarterback.
Yep. The thing is that why I put tackles over that is because Dan Moore.
They stopped them from
that's
sacking the quarterback.
But the not tier 1 guys are getting paid so heavily, and the tier 1 guys just get whatever they want to. But anyway, that's splitting hairs. So last year's draft was loaded with offensive tackles, and they went really fast. Well, even if just because there's a lot of them doesn't mean that they're any less of a premium.
That's
where I'm going with edge.
Everybody knows this stuff going. They knew this a year ago.
Yeah.
Like looking at this going, well, next year's, because they do. You don't scout the sophomores and juniors,
but the dude that walks into Auburn knows that Auburn's got a young kid.
Right.
I mean, obviously
so you're
now
talking
there's
about
transfers and things that can mess it up.
I'm sure they put together a board before the season starts and say, okay, this looks like a really good edge draft.
Yeah. I mean, I think they say things like, boy, my area is really loaded with defensive tackles and guards next year. It's subject to change, but keep that in mind. You know, it's not a Bible. It's not
guys rise, guys fall,
injuries, transfers,
like we talk about the quarterback stuff.
Right.
You just don't know, but you know that by mid-season, this is going to be a really good edge draft, or like last year, this is going to be a really good tackle draft.
So what I was saying about tackles is, just because there was a lot of them in the first round last year doesn't make it any less of a premium position or less of a need across the league. Yeah. So I was thinking that whenever we were going through your mock today, I'm like, just because there's a lot doesn't mean people are going to pass on them. You know, the Bears, the Bengals, et cetera, et cetera.
You need one, you need one.
You need one, you need one. The Eagles just won a Super Bowl based on that theory, you know, so they're going to be as in demand philosophically as much as ever. There might be 2 of them off the board that we didn't even expect in the top 20. You know what I mean? There might be a real run on them.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's something to keep an eye on. And if that happens, then, you know.
Then something's right.
You're probably getting a defensive tackle. Although the defensive tackles, the same thing could happen. This is a deep defensive tackle draft, and maybe.
It's not far off the premium position list.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it might even be right behind, especially if you can rush the passer.
I don't know that there's as many first-round guys as there are edge rushers.
Right.
That's
I could see
difference.
I could see waiting on D tackle easier than waiting on Michael Williams or Green or the Boston College dude, or, you know, whoever, you know.
And one of the things that we do in our mock drafts is trade down. Mm-hmm. It sounds good in theory.
Yeah,
we want to trade down. Somebody has to want to come up.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just hold a gun to somebody and say, hey, give me pick 25 for pick 21, and we want your third rounder.
We love our mocks and people like them, but it's not like you're going to have, we have 5 trade offers. We'll just tell the Giants no, we don't like them. We'll just tell the Ravens
doesn't work
no,
that way in
reality. We don't work with them. You know, that's not really how it works. There might be no one calling.
Right.
I mean, you got 15
you
minutes
can
and wait for it.
And, you know, the phone calls to other teams, really, laying the groundwork to some of this stuff happens now.
Oh, yeah. You
know, with these 2 weeks left in the draft, you start
I'm sure
setting your draft board and okay, here's what we like. Okay, what if again, you get your top 21 and then who's interested in moving around? Who would be somebody that somebody would be interested in coming up to get?
This is highly hypothetical because I don't think the Steelers are in this situation at all. But if they were really interested in getting in the 8 to 11 range, well, at the owners' meetings, I bet Omar would pull the 8th GM, the 9th GM, the 10th GM, and be like,
how married are you to that pick?
Yeah, right. I mean, if it doesn't go your way and your guy isn't sitting there, I'm going to call you the way, but keep us in mind first.
And I think in this year's draft in particular, I know when we talk about it and we do the thing on ESPN that is that Matt Miller that puts that together?
That are first-round picks.
The first-round pick guys. Quite frankly,
that number might be low.
It might be 5.
That's what I say. Like, his number might be high.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm not sure any safety counts. I'm not sure once you start getting past the top, I'm not sure any corner count. I mean, like,
honestly, I think after you get past the 5 or 6 players, however many it is, the next 50 to 60 players are all going to have similar grades.
Yeah.
And it's going to be based on need, which is, again, why I thought edge rushers. Everybody needs them.
I remember when we did our 21 the other day, and I went out and got coffee, and I started thinking about last year's class. And then I went home and just pulled up the first round of the 2024 draft, 1 year ago. And I'm trying to ignore what they did in their rookie seasons, what I thought of them this time last year. There's so many guys I would take ahead of the 5th guy on our board at 21. I mean, so many. Yeah. It's an enormous
Not that they
number.
won't be good players.
No, right.
There'll be good players that come out of this draft. It's just going to be
like Quinyon Mitchell went deep in the 20s.
Yeah,
and he's a first-round pick any year to me. And I thought
he'd be a top 10 pick this year.
And maybe higher. I mean, like, Hunter's the only corner you'd think is clearly ahead of him because Hunter's weird,
Yeah. Elijah Roberts, the other guy who came in today, is a guy we haven't talked about a ton out of SMU. 6'4", 285.
Yeah.
But you know what he has?
He has the length, huh?
33 and 5/8 inch arms.
I thought he had long
he's got
arms,
he's got the arms. He's got 10 1/4 inch hands. That helps you with your heavy hand usage.
I do need to watch more of him. We haven't talked about him a lot. I haven't studied him super in depth, but I've seen him and read about him and watched a little bit. I think he could use 10 pounds.
He was a really good tester, though, too.
Yeah,
he ran a 4.78 at the combine.
That's the 2 things I was really going to say is there's a lot of moldable clay there to work with, especially if you don't need him now, and he wouldn't be your first-round pick.
No,
right.
I mean, he's more of a 4th or 5th round pick.
Yeah, he could be a more athletic Logan Lee rookie season, whatever, and I'd like to put 10 pounds on him, But all those things aren't that hard to do.
It's not that hard to do.
No, right. And I don't know what they asked him to play at or how big he can get or, but he has length.
And typically most guys come into the combine a little bit lighter than
to run and
what you would normally be. But
it sounds crazy, but they don't look good in their underwear too. You don't want to have a little extra fat on them and stuff. They're like, wow, that's he stands out.
You look like a Jigglypuff.
Right.
But yeah, so again, another mid round defensive lineman
that would fit in.
Yeah. This draft is loaded with those kind of guys, and so we'll see where that goes. But it's such an interesting draft. This is the latest that we've gotten into the process that every team has still had their first round pick since 1993.
Really? That doesn't surprise me at all.
And so I'm like, what was that 93 draft like? It changed 5 days before the draft when the Chiefs.
So there was a pre-draft trade?
Chiefs sent their first-round pick to the 49ers for Joe Montana.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Imagine that, a team going out to get a
veteran quarterback that had some injuries and all-time great.
So I just went back and looked at that draft. Drew Bledsoe was the number 1 overall pick.
Rick Meyer. That's the bettest draft then,
Rick Meyer was 2.
Okay. Is that Jerome's draft?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
He went 10th overall. Jerome Bettis does not go 10th overall in today's NFL.
No. I mean, it might not even be a first-round pick.
Yeah.
But I think he ran well, and he's a better athlete than he looks.
Yeah. But Rick Meyer was 2, Garrison Hurst 3.
Mm-hmm. He doesn't go 3rd.
And they traded up to go get him. The Cardinals and Jets swapped picks there. So the Jets moved up a spot, or the Cardinals moved up a spot with the Jets to get Garrison Hurst. The Jets then took Marvin Jones at 4.
The linebacker, okay.
The Bengals took John Copeland at 5. At 6, the Buccaneers took Eric Curry. At 7, the Bears took Curtis Conway. At 8, the Saints took Willie Roaf.
Wow.
Your first offensive tackle, who wound up being a Hall of Famer.
He's basically the best player in that draft.
Right. The Giants forfeited their pick because they made a supplemental pick, taking Dave Brown in 92.
That's crazy. People probably don't even know how the supplemental draft works, but
nobody does it anymore.
Nobody does it anymore, right? Because if you're in a bad situation, you just transfer out or move.
Yeah.
You don't get stuck academically ineligible or whatever. Like Chris Carter was a supplemental pick.
Right.
Wow.
Lincoln Kennedy went 9 to the Falcons.
Okay.
So your second offensive tackle. Then Bettis went 10 to the Rams.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting, though. I mean, do you think – I mean, I know you don't know the answer, but I'm kind of betting there won't – that when the draft opens, when the opening bell rings on Thursday night, all 32 will have their picks. It won't hold up for the night, but I don't know that there's going to be a pre-draft move.
Yeah,
going.
Because to get
I don't know where you can't
to
get
make
the
a
one.
trade, you're going to get a quarterback.
Right. I mean, you can't get the 1.
Yeah, and I think could somebody want to move up to 2?
Maybe. Are those guys open for getting out of there either?
Yeah.
I don't know.
The problem then becomes, you start looking at those teams that are in the top 10. The Titans, okay, they're in the quarterback market. They're going to take Cam
I think
Moore.
they're done, right.
Cleveland is in the quarterback market, but it doesn't seem like they're interested in Shedeur Sanders as much anymore.
Not at 2.
Not at 2.
I think like the Giants and Browns could still very much be in the quarterback market after they get their stud blue chip guy.
Yeah,
you know, and if it falls well and I can get up there and maybe I even have to forfeit next year's first, I get Dart, I get Sanders, okay, and see how the chips fall.
The Giants we just mentioned, the Patriots aren't making a move up to get a quarterback.
They're not going up.
No.
I bet they would gladly go down now that it looks like the top 3 are off the board.
The Jaguars aren't going to be in the market for a quarterback.
Not going up, no.
The Raiders could be.
And is anyone trading up for Sanders?
No.
I mean, you're not trading to 2 or 3 to get Sanders.
No, I don't think so. Not what you're going to have to give up.
I could see someone trading to 8 to get ahead of the Saints.
Sure.
If you're 12 or 13.
Yeah.
Or,
But the Raiders aren't in that market.
No, I don't think so.
The Jets could be in that market.
Maybe they would take him at their pick.
Yeah.
I don't know that they would be aggressive to get would they go to 4? Like, if I'm the Patriots, I'd love the Jets or Saints or someone like that to call me. Yeah. They'll still take Membo or Campbell or even Ted McMillan or whatever. You're going to get somebody you need.
The Panthers aren't making a move for a quarterback.
No.
The Saints could, but they're more than a quarterback away. I don't think they want to trade up to go do it.
And they don't take quarterbacks in the first round ever.
Ever.
You know, right.
Yeah, they haven't done it since Archie Manning.
Right. I mean,
who's
are they
older
going
than
to
me.
trade Carr?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's drying up unless Rodgers retires.
The Bears aren't trading up for a quarterback.
No.
The 49ers aren't trading up for a quarterback.
Unless they something weird and they trade Purdy, but there's no one buying on these other guys now.
The Cowboys aren't moving up for a quarterback.
No. I mean, there were 6 taken in the first round. That's 6 bad teams that takes them out of the quarterback market.
The Dolphins not moving up for a quarterback.
No.
The Colts, they're not moving up again for a
this
quarterback.
Year.
Yeah.
You just paid Jones. You're going to live with it, and maybe next year you're back in the market.
The Falcons, nope.
No, they said that.
The Cardinals, nope.
No.
The Bengals, no.
That's why everyone links them to the Steelers.
Yeah. The Seahawks, I don't think they would move up to get one, but they could take one.
They should take one.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they like Howell more than we think. Not as a long-term starter, but I mean, I'm just saying Howell versus Howard or McCord or somebody or Shuck, maybe they like him better than those guys.
Yeah.
But they could be round 2 trade up for Dart. I mean, they got a lot of extra picks too.
Yeah.
Darnold's really only on a 1-year deal.
It's really a 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Tampa Bay's
Same with Fields.
Yeah, Tampa
Basically
Bay's not
a 1-year
moving up or doing
I don't
anything with
think.
quarterback.
They might be wise to take one in the 3rd round, but
Yeah.
I mean, they're
Denver's not going to do it.
no.
So I mean,
it doesn't leave
there
much.
just
The playoff teams aren't into
there
it.
just aren't that many landing spots there or teams that are going to be super aggressive to go up and get a quarterback.
See, I think that factors.
That's where the trades come in.
I think that factors in the Browns and Giants' decision to not take Sanders, because who are we really fighting after the 4th pick in the draft to go get Sanders when he starts to fall a little? And fall's not even the right word. He's fallen to where he should go. Or
Right.
Dart.
Yeah.
Or, like, teams are going to be anxious to go back. Browns have a ton of picks. Giants are desperate. They could move next year's first to get to 15 overall or something like that and leave this draft with Hunter and Sanders.
Yeah.
I mean, that's possible. So if you're in their shoes, if we really diagnosed the Browns and Giants drafts like we do the Steelers, I think you're happy to take the blue chip dude. And then let's try to now we're wheeling and dealing.
Yeah, now you can go do something because you've
Right.
got the stud who
you got the no-brainer.
Yeah.
Right. That's maybe a franchise changer type guy, and then we still might get our quarterback.
Would you be open for business in trading with the Browns for the first overall pick in the 2nd round for them to move up to 21 and take a quarterback?
Yes, because I don't like the quarterbacks. I want to play against them. Which might bring us
I'm kind
to
of in the same boat, yeah.
like, ooh, I get to play against Shedeur Sanders, and you guys can have a history of screwing him up, or Dart, or if it's one of those two, I will gladly pay against them, and I have no problem picking 33.
Yeah.
That's not a bad place to be.
Not at all.
I mean, because you could also move back up to 27 if the D tackles are falling like crazy. It doesn't mean you're stuck at 33.
Yeah.
Maybe you're the trade-up team.
Because you're probably going to get
a lot.
You
get a haul, yeah.
So
I actually did make a trade with them on Pro Football Focus, and I was just curious, like, what do you get when you move to the real beginning of the 2nd round? And it was a haul. I mean, there was a lot of stuff. It was decent. There was a day 2 pick next year. It was a good, obviously the 2nd rounder, obviously the 3rd. It's like, man, I got a lot of stuff in my fingertips here, and maybe I still get Nolan or Harmon or whatever.
Yeah. Right.
It's not bad.
No, it's not the worst thing in the world. And again, in this draft, it's all going to be team need. It's all going to be about team need. Everybody says take the best player available.
I just think the Giants and Browns are so key after they make their pick.
Yeah.
And the Saints the Saints are super unpredictable. They're a trade-up team all the time.
Yeah.
It's always Mardi Gras.
Let's get to the break here. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. We'll be back with more right after this. And we are back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And I don't know if you read this all the time, Matt, but Bob Labriola, the Dean of Doom, the Lord of Living in His Fears.
Friend of the show. Close friend of the show. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Talk to him tomorrow.
His Asked and Answered on Steelers.com is, I read it religiously because
it is good.
It's Bob.
Man, he's great. Yeah.
So he was asked today by Ed Johnson from Germantown, Ohio, that can you list the starting quarterbacks for the Steelers between Terry Bradshaw's retirement after the 83 season and Chuck Knowles after the 91 season?
Okay.
So we're talking about a 9-year period.
Right.
And so Bob rolled through it here because, okay, Bradshaw started one game in 83.
Really? Okay. And then retired after the season.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he made like 6 passes in the game, blew his elbow out, and was done.
Okay.
Cliff Stout was the starter that year. In 84, David Woodley made 7 starts. Mark Malone made 9 starts. They split the job. From 85 to 87, Malone was the primary starter.
Okay. So I thought he stuck for a while.
Yeah. In 88, Bubby Brister started 13 games. Was Bubby a third-round pick, I believe?
Yes, he was a third-round pick.
Todd Blackledge started 3, and Brister retained the job through 89. He made 14 starts in 89, 16 starts in 90. He opened the 91 season as a starter, but after 6 games, Noel went to Neil O'Donnell, who was third-round pick.
Yeah.
He then started the next 8 games, and then Noel went back to Brister for the final 2 games of that season.
Not great. Right. You're just searching.
It's what you do.
Yeah.
And it made me this made me think of this because I was looking around social media today, and Bob Smizek, former Post-Gazette columnist, who I have a lot of respect for, know Bob well, tweeted out that the Steelers searching or going after Aaron Rodgers has made them the laughing stock of the NFL. Now, you and I were just at the league meetings.
And we were just at the facility about an hour ago, too, right? At
no point during that 4 days we were in South Florida was anybody looking at, look at the Steelers. Look what they're doing.
You a second time.
You silly English Canadians.
Yeah, we weren't laughed at, no.
The laughing stock of the NFL.
Don't you think they're pretty comfortable with this situation and know more than we do?
Yes, I do.
I think they're pretty comfortable with what the outcome is going to be, especially from hearing from the owner at the owners' meetings, too. I mean, Tomlin and Kahn addressed it, but didn't say, oh, I'm feeling good about it, or blah, blah, blah. And then Mr. Rooney comes out and says, it's trending the right direction. I'm not real concerned. Like, okay.
Signing David Woodley, they're not doing that.
Right.
They're not putting Todd Blackledge.
They're
not going like 3rd-round draft picks, and just. I remember the '80s.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was in my wheelhouse. There was a reason. Even though I grew up largely in Western Pennsylvania, different parts of Western Pennsylvania, I was not a Steelers fan.
Right.
Those teams were not easy to love.
No, they definitely weren't. I mean, they didn't have the face of the team or the quarterback, and you're hearing. Funny now that I think about it. I mean, at that point, I was probably 10, 12. I was born in '73, and you're hearing during that era, the games passed Chuck Noll by, and he doesn't have it anymore. Yeah, he forgot what blocking and tackling and coaching was all about. He didn't have a quarterback.
He didn't have a quarterback.
Yeah, right.
It's all about the quarterback. And they had taken Mark Malone in the 1st round.
Right.
It just didn't work out.
I mean, he wasn't a premium pick because they were really good, but, right.
They had Cliff Stout, and then the USFL came along.
That's where he ended up
gave him $1 million or whatever it was.
A lot of money for the day.
Yeah, to go play for the Birmingham Stallions. It's like.
And they weren't going to the playoffs every year and didn't have winning records every year either. At that point. This time is better than that time.
Without a doubt.
I mean, it's not even close.
And I can't get past the feeling, and I'm not ripping on any other franchises or anything like that in town. But the difference between how the Steelers' seasons, in which they've made the playoffs 3 of the last 4 years, and the Penguin season, they just got eliminated from playoff contention. They can't make the playoffs again as of their loss yesterday.
They're out this year.
They're out.
Yeah.
For the 3rd consecutive year.
Right.
And somehow they have a plan, and the Steelers don't.
I know.
And they're in a better spot than the Steelers are. They're in the last place in their division, and I guarantee you.
I often hear the Pirates are in a better spot. I don't know enough about either one of those sports or franchises. Maybe they are. I'd be shocked.
The Penguins did not go into this season not hoping to not make the playoffs. They didn't go into this season
that wasn't the
trying
plan.
to tank.
Right.
They went out and spent money in the offseason.
Well, they've retained Malkin and Sid and Letang, and they're same guys.
They paid a goaltender, $5 million a year. They were trying to win and didn't do it. And somehow the idea that these franchises are all in a similar place right now boggles my mind.
Yeah. I mean, I just wonder what our message boards and reaction would be if the Steelers were eliminated from the playoffs in Week 12.
If the Steelers didn't make the playoffs 3 consecutive years, that's never and
or if they were
had a last place finish.
The Pirates winning percentage every year. I mean, if you're winning 30-some percent of your games or whatever they do, you know.
They didn't make the playoffs in 98, 99, and 2000.
Okay.
But at least in 2000, they finished 9-7 and were in playoff contention. They needed something to happen. They won their game.
Mattered, yeah.
They won their game against the Chargers in San Diego and needed some stuff to happen to get into the playoffs. Didn't happen for them, but at least you saw something. They were trending in the right direction.
Yeah.
Not going the other way. The Penguins are in last place. They're going to finish in last place in their division this year. They've gone boom, boom, boom. They're going the wrong way.
How often has that happened since covering the Steelers?
And it doesn't happen.
I remember the 2 most recent years, I should know this off the top of my head, the Steelers didn't make the playoffs. 6 teams went, and they were number 7.
Yeah.
You know, there was a couple of those instances, 2 or 3 years in a row, where they were tiebreaker away or whatever, 1 win away or whatever. Now, again, I really have a hard time talking Penguins and Pirates because I can't even tell you their rosters at this point. I do understand that the Penguins have a ton of draft picks, so at least the future finally looks
Who else
bright
has a ton of draft picks next year?
going forward.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's kind of like the Browns. Like the Browns got rid of all their picks forever, and now finally have a ton this year.
Yeah.
So you can start,
Right.
But is Sid going to be around? I don't know. I mean,
right.
Is Myles Garrett going to be around? Is Sid going to be around? I don't know, when you're good.
That people argue that the Steelers don't have a plan in place.
See, that makes me crazy. Like, they don't just willy-nilly throw stuff at a fan and hope it sticks. Right.
Their plan is, we're going to compete every year.
Yeah.
Which they have done. They've made the playoffs.
They walk that line of now and the future,
yeah.
Which is hard.
And it's obvious what the plan is. If you're paying any attention whatsoever, they've loaded up with all the compensatory picks and everything for next year to make the play to go get their quarterback.
Yes. I think the plan is to really be all in and fall in love with somebody next year.
Even if you had to trade your first and second round picks next year and maybe a future picks or whatever.
Right.
Because you've loaded up on all those compensatory picks, you can afford to do that.
Oh, you can,
because you're still going to get stuff out of the draft.
That's my point, is if you can build, especially the line of scrimmages, but if you can build a quality environment for the nest, and in the meantime, win 10 games with Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback, and maybe a playoff game, or maybe you just miss the playoffs, or maybe you only win 8, but you're not picking in the top 5.
You're not creating a losing environment.
Right. And Cam Hayward's still giving it his all, and TJ Watt's still a leader, and blah, 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 blah.
You're not doing what the Browns have done right now is we had our 1 year, and then we're back to picking second again.
So where I'm going with this,
the guys want to get. I got to get the hell out of here.
We're fast forwarding 1 year. We're sitting here in this room leading up to the 2026 draft, and our conversation might be over and over. Yeah, the Steelers are picking 25 in the first round, but there's 4 quarterbacks we really like. Can they get to 7? Can they get to 8? Man, that's going to be expensive.
Can they get? We just went through all the teams that don't need quarterbacks this year.
Yeah.
There's going to be some teams that take quarterbacks this year that are going to be like, oh. Okay, maybe we got our guy.
Right. I mean, we only have to get to 10. Maybe you have to get to 8.
Maybe there's only 6 teams in the entire draft next year that even are in the market for a quarterback.
But my point is, a year from now, let's say the Steelers win a playoff game, and they're picking kind of late in the first round, 25, and they got to get to 7 or 8. Man, that's going to be expensive, though. I don't care what it costs.
Right.
You want next year's first? You want the first that year, the second that year, and next year's first? I'm going to get my quarterback. Yeah. I don't care what it costs. That's when you push your chips in.
And I've got a bunch
the plan.
of those day 2 picks and early day 3 picks that I can afford to do
if I take a quarterback at 8 and then I have 2/3 to go get a left guard and something else. Yeah. And, oh, by the way, I have tons of cap space to fill my other needs. Like the cap space they have next year is tremendous. They'll keep any free agent they want, or they'll let them walk for future comp picks, and they'll fill their holes that way.
To say that they don't have a plan
is bonkers.
Is crazy.
So I I hesitate to bring this up because people think I'm bonkers.
Have at it. They think that anyways.
They should.
About both of us.
And I think about the stuff too much. But I'm starting to fall in love with Jalen Milroe. And I regret doing our 21 because for the Steelers' perspective, he would be my QB2. Because if you hear me out, because he could be the answer.
Okay, because I'm thinking you're bonkers.
I get it. I get it. For the Steelers. I don't want Sanders and maybe be the 14th best quarterback.
No, I hear that part of it.
Yeah. Frankly, I'm just not very impressed with Dart. Shuck's a little old. But if Milroe could sit behind Rodgers and do very little this year and continues to do all the stuff he's working on, like the Senior Bowl was a disaster, but he's been working with Jordan Palmer on his lower body mechanics, and he's new at it. Like I'm giving him a lot of excuses and a lot of leeway. And where I'm going with this is he's my number 2 quarterback now for the Steelers. Not for the Saints, not for the Giants. That would still be Sanders. But would you consider, if I could convince you of that, or maybe I can, maybe I'm impossible to do that. But if there was that player and I'm sold on him and I take Walter Nolan at 21, I might trade a lot to go get Milroe in this draft. Future stuff. And build and do it a year earlier.
Well, if you think
only him,
if you think he's the guy and you can get into the second, because the cost to get back into the second round is not going to be.
I need to get like to 35. I mean, the fact that he got invited to the draft has made my mind spin. Like maybe I'm not looking at him in the right light.
Again, in this particular draft, when only 12 guys had said yes to coming to the draft because they all want. No, I'm going to spend the time at home. I don't want to go to Green Bay. Whatever their decision went into.
I'm just convinced he's going to be a top 50 pick.
Well, I think he will be too.
Yeah. I mean, like you're going to have to give up something good to go in that neighborhood.
You're going to have to.
It's kind of a bird in the hand. Like
I'm not interested in giving up next year's one. I'm not.
Me neither. I've said that 8,000 times. But if I love him. If I love him, and I'm starting to fall in love.
I'm still not interested in trading next year's one.
Just because
to get a 2, that's bad business.
It is, unless you love them. I mean, I'm not like writing an article about it and saying this is what they should do. It has just crossed my mind for the first time in the last 24 hours.
That's putting an 8-carat rock on his finger and signing a prenup that says he gets everything.
Yeah, but he can work on being a better wife for a year, and I can get married a year earlier,
or whatever. However you want to look at this,
whatever. Right. Yeah, I guess he would be a husband.
Although I just put a 8-carat ring on his finger.
Right.
So we've mixed
our
go
on that road.
Yeah,
but you could start the process a year early if you love them.
If you love them,
as opposed to I hope I love someone next year and I got to get because here's my point is I think the Steelers might pick later than 21 next year. I think they might be good. They might win a playoff game. And if they do, and I've had Milroe along for that ride.
Well, they're not going to try to not do that.
Of course.
The people they
Aaron
just
Rodgers
need to tank.
Might be
they
good
just
at
need
football.
to tank.
Right.
No, they're never going to just tank.
I mean, if Rodgers retires and it's Rudolph, then I don't think they'll pick higher than 21. But if Rodgers hits, all of a sudden it might be like, I could really ride the fence and be a successful organization now with this dude on the back burner, and maybe I don't have next year's first. That's last resort. But I've got a 2 and 2 3s and a ton of cap space. I know I don't have next year's first, but I think I have my quarterback.
Well, the other side of that equation,
it would only be for him. I would not do that for Sanders.
Is that we don't know, for example, who might be available as a veteran player next year.
Yeah, but I want to be done with that.
I get it.
And maybe Rodgers comes back one more year.
Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't.
Right.
But
I'd like to turn the keys to Milroe in 26.
What if pick a player?
I mean, you definitely could get the Cars and Cousins, and maybe it's Dak.
Yeah.
I mean, there's those dudes, right?
I mean, what if one of those guys becomes available because somebody's in cap hell, the quarterback wants out, and you have the cap space to do it?
Well, I still have a lot of picks. I still have a lot of cap space.
I'm just not interested. I'm not
trading
interested.
the one's going to be really hard for me. I
trading a future
wouldn't
one.
bring that up. But I mean, I'm getting to the point if I'm willing to trade.
The Steelers haven't done that since the 60s.
I know.
The mid 60s when they traded away from taking Gale Sayers or Dick Butkus.
Right. And I understand that.
2 Hall of Famers. That's why they don't do that stuff anymore.
Right. But if a year from now I'm willing to give up 25, 32 picks later, and the next year's first, why aren't I willing to give up 25 for the guy that I know?
For a second-round pick.
If I love him. I mean, I have to be in love, smitten.
Well, if you love him, then you take him at 21.
That's the other conversation. Right? He would be in my top 21, and Sanders would not if I redid it. I don't want Sanders for the Steelers. That's settling to me.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, again, I mean,
that's taking that's taking Kenny Pickett again. We've already been down that road.
That's not going to change my franchise enough. I'm out on him. I'm out on Dart. If they're all on the board and they're like, you get to work with one of these guys for the remainder of their rookie contract, I'm picking Milroe because it might be the next one. The other guys won't.
I definitely think he has the highest ceiling of any quarterback in this draft.
I'm just starting to think through.
But
those
he also
eyes.
has the lowest floor.
Absolutely. Yes.
Not the lowest floor, but he's got a lower floor than the other top guys.
His legs raise the floor a little. I mean,
if we're talking about those top 5 or 6 quarterbacks, he's got maybe the lowest floor.
Yeah, I mean,
I could see a path where he becomes Anthony Richardson. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I was going to say I could see a path where he's the version we know right now of Fields.
Or that, yeah.
And that's not good enough to give up future stuff. But that guy's still in the league. I mean, and he's going to get a lot of chances, and boy, can he run.
But he was the 11th pick in the draft.
I know.
It's a little different.
You know what I mean? But I'm just looking at Milroe, like if I've gone on diatribe of next year's build the nest, go all in, get your guy, and I believe that to no end. But if there's one here, it's him. And if so, and I can get him cheaper than
but now
moving
you're not
up to 7
now
overall.
You're not getting him cheaper if you're trading next year's 1.
Well, to get to 7 overall next year is going to be way more expensive to get to 35 this year. That one's going to be involved no matter what. You know what I mean? I'm going to have a hard time trading the 1. Don't get me wrong. But
yeah, I'm not in on that with you. I can't go
if
there.
I took him to dinner and I adore the kid and I'm not letting anybody know and they haven't brought him in for a visit, which I think is on purpose, we're bringing in Jackson Dart.
His pro day.
What's that? They know everything about him. They took him to dinner. Right?
They were at his pro days. Right. Tomlin and Kahn were not at Jackson Dart pro day.
Right.
That was let's bring him in. And we didn't get a chance to go to that one.
No, I brought up Milroe on Twitter, and people are like, well, he's not in for a visit. I'm like, I don't think they have any more questions.
Yeah.
I think they know they don't. Why would they bring him in for a visit and tell everyone they love him if they love him? Anyways. I don't know. That's my tinfoil hat for the day.
Okay. Tell Matt how crazy he is on YouTube.
The answer might be there this year, is my point.
Let him know.
It might be.
Okay. We're going to get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. We'll be back with more right after this. And welcome back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, one thing we didn't talk about yesterday was Julio Jones retiring over the weekend.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one. I mean, he's been semi-retired for a while, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't like Anthony Chickalo announcing his retirement a couple of years ago, like 2 years after he had played.
After nobody wanted him anymore, right?
Yeah, but nobody wanted Julio Jones anymore.
The last couple of years have been rough. I mean, he's been holding on by a thread.
Where do you rank him among receivers since 2000?
Very, very high. I think everyone remembers how good Antonio Brown was when he was in his heyday and phenomenal football player, AB.
Yeah.
I think Julio was equal. I thought those two were clearly the best two at that position. There was a stretch where Odell was third, but it was short.
He
didn't withstand as long.
He didn't have the longevity
of
those
crashed.
guys.
But those two, to me, were basically equals.
I give AB the edge just because of the touchdown catches. That's the one area that
it's weird that Julio doesn't catch touchdowns.
Yeah.
Andre Johnson was like that too. Like you're huge. They don't have as good ball skills as you think. Just because you're big doesn't mean you can go up and Larry Fitzgerald it over there. But I think he's equal to like a Larry.
I would put
like the all-time receiver list is a weird
since
one
2000. Larry Fitzgerald and Calvin Johnson might be 1-2 for me.
Calvin would be very, very, very high.
And then I think AB is number 3.
So, like, even if we just go my wide receiver rankings all time, Rice has to be 1. I think Moss is pretty clearly 2. Calvin might be 3 for me. T.O. is high.
Not as high as those guys.
He's hard to root for.
I'd take Larry Fitzgerald.
I'd take Larry over T.O.
Yeah, I'd take AB over.
And I'd take Julio.
T.O. And I'd take Julio. Yeah, they're just more. They're tougher to play against.
Yes, I mean, I'm not sure if AB.
I'm not saying T.O. wasn't good,
guy, but the locker room stuff has to.
Well, if we're going to say T.O., T.O. wasn't.
Well, that's what I'm saying about T.O.
Yeah.
It doesn't help his.
That doesn't. That doesn't.
We're just talking about the player.
Yeah.
Like I might take all those guys over Marvin Harrison.
Yeah.
I mean, or Bruce or Holt.
Yeah.
A lot of it's just because of size. You know, like you want to line up against Calvin Johnson for 60 snaps.
But AB was different.
AB's different. He's not as big as physical as those guys.
Matt, I mean, I saw every game the guy played. He was doubled all the time.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter.
People hate hearing this, but he's clearly the best Steeler receiver ever.
In terms of talent, yeah.
In terms of what he did on the football field.
Yeah.
I mean, he was – and for me to say Julio was basically his equal when they were at their peak of their powers, that's why I'm bragging about how good Julio is. He's awesome.
From 2013 to 2018, Antonio Brown averaged 114 receptions for 1,525 yards and 11 touchdown catches. That was his average season.
That's Joe Blow average season. I think Julio's is about the same.
Except for the touchdowns.
Yeah, the touchdowns were lesser. But there was a stretch there before Julio's last couple of years, and AB's were weird too, where their yards per game were like 85 average. I mean, it was something crazy.
Right, again, the last game that Antonio Brown played as a Steeler down in New Orleans, he was the best player in the NFL that day.
Yes.
The entire league.
Undisputed, yeah.
He just was. Nobody had a game like the game that he had down there.
What I thought was unbelievably impressive, too, was after things went a little awry in his life and his career, no one could cover him when he was a Buccaneer.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he had already frozen his feet and complained about his face mask and all that stuff.
I'm not saying he's not a weirdo.
I'm not saying he's babysitting my newborn kids or anything, but he could get open.
He could get open, and he would catch the football.
I bet he could get open now.
Yeah,
I mean,
probably
Julio's feet fell apart. I mean, like he couldn't move anymore.
And that was always one of the issues with Julio in his career. He came in with the foot issues and stuff like that. And
he withstood that and played through a lot of pain and a lot of injury.
Yeah.
And at the end, it just got the better of him. But Julio's maybe a top 5 of all time. Yeah. I mean, I think that he's right there, at least in the modern day. Like, you look at the 70s receivers, with all respect to Swan and Stalls, I'm not that impressed with that group. You know, like when you look at the all-time list,
they also had to deal with some different rules.
It's way different. It's way different. I mean, people are like, watch the games. I mean, Mel Blount would take you and throw it on your head.
Yeah, clotheslined over the middle. Yeah.
But, I mean, the fact that Swan and Stalls were, to me, clearly the best 2 receivers in the 70s. Like, people talk about those Cowboy guys. They're okay. I mean, they're not, like, all-time greats, though. Then you get in the 80s, and it's like Largent was awesome for a while, and then you get into, like, the Rice era. And then it starts to become, like, the golden age of receivers. You know, the Mosses and T.O.s and Larrys and Holtz and those type of dudes. And now they're everywhere.
Everywhere. Anyways, I just thought
Julio would be really high.
Julio's a really good player, and that's why I thought we should mention that.
Yeah, we definitely should.
But anyways, let's get to a break. That's going to do it for hour number 1 of The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with hour number 2 of The Drive right after this. Welcome back to hour number 2 of The Drive here on Steelers Nation Radio. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson, and Mel Kiper has come out with his latest mock draft here. That's what we'll do. We'll
2-rounder, right?
It's a 2-rounder.
Okay.
Fortunately, the Steelers only have 1 pick at
this
point,
sure.
as we know.
Did he? I knew it came out. I didn't click on it. I know him and McShay used to fight all the time about, we're not going to have trades. You know, Mel's old school. And then eventually they were allowed to have trades. And then Mel said only at the end, but right when we're getting late to the draft. So did he include trades or not?
I can't remember.
I guess we'll get to it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cam Ward, number 1 for the Titans. That's going to happen. He has Travis Hunter now going number 2 to the Cleveland Browns.
I heard this morning that Vegas odds has changed in that direction.
Yeah. And I think it's largely because Abdul Carter hasn't done anything in this draft process.
He's had 2 injuries, too.
He's got 2.
Right.
The shoulder thing, is fine.
Right.
Once you start having, again, we just talked about Julio Jones in the previous segment. That foot issue that he had plagued him throughout the course of his career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. Right. And I'd like you to work out if I'm going to use the second pick in the draft on you.
Yeah.
I think Hunter's the best player in this draft. But, I mean, if you're the Giants, I assume you still take Carter and then you shop Thibodeau, which has been rumored anyway. But
tough shopping, though, this year in this particular draft with all the edge rushers.
You're not going to get a lot.
You might as well
him.
keep him.
You might as well keep him and rotate them. And it's not your biggest need.
Yeah.
Giants would have much rather taken a quarterback or probably Hunter.
Well, he has him taking Abdul Carter at 3.
Sure.
Maybe you trade out of that spot to somebody who really has to have Abdul Carter. But again,
maybe.
It's a deep edge rusher draft.
Yeah, yeah.
At 4, the Patriots take Will Campbell.
I prefer Membo slightly, but left tackle's a much bigger need, and Campbell's a left, and Membo's a right.
Left and, Membo's a right. I get it.
Yeah, I think that's the pick I would make if I were them.
Jacksonville at 5 takes Mason Graham, the defensive tackle for Michigan.
Yeah.
At 6, he has the Raiders taking Ashton Genty, running back from Boise.
I don't think he'll get out of the top 10, and I think 6 is a very obvious landing spot.
At 7, he has the Jets taking Armand Membo, the offensive tackle from Missouri.
Great. Although their pass catchers, besides Wilson, are really bad.
Yeah.
They have a lot of holes.
At 8, the Panthers take Jalen Walker, the linebacker from Georgia.
Become super chalky, too.
At 9, Shedeur Sanders goes to the New Orleans Saints.
I can see it. It's not what they do, but I could understand it. I mean, you could bring him along slow with Carr. You could try to trade Carr after the draft. I don't know.
Actually, I think that's a better landing spot for him. It's not in the Northeast, which is what he would be with the Browns or Giants.
That's one of my concerns with having him in the top 21 for the Steelers. I don't think he fits this area of the country.
I understand. He played at Colorado, so he has played in weather.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have a super strong arm.
And their season's over before the wind and weather really hits, too.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, he's not real well equipped for the Northeast, physicality-wise.
Yeah. At 10, the Bears take Tyler Warren.
Okay. I actually threw that out there the other day thinking if Genty's not there, I would go towards edge. Everyone's giving him O-line. I think their O-line's solved. I'm just not a big Cole Kmet fan. Give me a tight end.
At 11, Will Johnson goes to the 49ers.
Okay, that makes sense. They have a lot of needs, too.
At 12, the Cowboys take Amari Hampton, the running back from North Carolina.
That's probably the earliest he could go. Would you take him over your choice of receivers if you were them?
No.
You'd take Golden?
Not in this draft, yeah.
Yeah, me too.
At 13, the Miami Dolphins take Jahdae Barron, cornerback from Texas. Armstead retired over the weekend as well. The Dolphins have a lot of holes.
Really bad. Safety's decimated. D tackle's really bad.
The offensive line's...
It's been bad for 3 years, and you just lost your best guy.
And your quarterback, every time he gets hit, you got to hold your breath and wonder if that's going to be the one that ends his career.
Yeah. I think they're in a terrible situation. I bet they win fewer games. I think their window's slamming down.
Yeah.
I would consider trading Hill, or probably should have already.
At 14, the Colts take Colston Loveland, the tight end from Michigan.
Everyone puts a tight end there because they want the tight ends to go high.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily...
They're fine at pass catcher, and they run the ball like crazy.
Yeah.
I think we both gave him, I know I did, and I thought you did, and I wanted to mention when we did the video, gave the guard out of Bama.
Yeah, that just makes more sense.
Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson running the ball. Give me a big mashing guard. You lost your guard in free agency.
Yeah.
How much are they going to throw to the tight end? They got Pittman. They got Downs. They got chain movers.
Yeah. The Falcons at 15 take Mike Green, the outside linebacker from Marshall. At 16, the Cardinals take Matthew Golden.
I don't know if they're in the spot to take luxury picks.
You just paid Trey McBride a bunch of money. You used a high pick on Marvin Harrison last year.
Wilson's not terrible.
Yeah.
I would go defense.
17, the Bengals take Jihad Campbell, the linebacker from Alabama. And I think when we did our mock draft, I think I either had him there or I moved him from there.
I always have him going to Tampa, but I could see him going earlier.
The Bengals inside linebackers.
They leave a lot to be desired, too.
Yeah. And Jermaine Pratt once out of there.
Yeah, they might dump him on draft day or something.
Yeah.
Get a day 3 pick or something for him.
Like he's not like, I got to hold on for Jermaine Pratt. If I can get Jihad Campbell instead.
He could help their edge, too. I mean, he has some edge stuff to him. I don't hate the fit. They're another team, though. I don't think they will go like, I would say they won't go tight end, but they could do something on offense. They could take an interior lineman anywhere on defense.
Yeah. At 18, the Seahawks take Kelvin Banks, Jr., the offensive tackle from Texas.
Sure. I'd probably put him at guard if I were them. But
at 19, the Buccaneers take Nick Emuari, safety from South Carolina.
Yeah, he could be your dime backer, too.
At 20, the Broncos take Tet McMillan, the wide receiver from Arizona.
I think that's pretty good value for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. You pair him with Sutton. Yeah, I can live with that.
At 21, he has the Steelers taking Derek Harmon, defensive tackle out of Oregon.
And all three are on the board. Wouldn't shock me at all. I think he's my third of the three, but I get it.
I can understand if they did that because, again, I'm looking at arm length, I'm looking at size, height, the whole thing. He's got all the prerequisites. I don't have to squint and say, okay, can he play? No, he's a defensive end.
Oh, yeah. He might be the best pass rusher of the three now, consistently. Like Nolan's best moments, you go, whoa, but Harmon, I would say, brings more consistent pressure.
Yeah.
At least this past season.
At 22, the Chargers take Gray Zabel, the offensive lineman from North Dakota State.
I mean, their interior, I know they're not thrilled with.
They could play him at center.
Yeah, so I guess he'd be the center. Because they consider kicking Zion in the center, too.
Yeah. At 23,
they signed a center.
Yeah, nobody would know, though. 23, the Packers take Michael Williams.
That's their kind of pick. Traitsy,
edge rusher
Van
out of
Ness
Georgia.
Type, right?
Yeah. Minnesota then at 24 takes Donovan Jackson, the guard out of Ohio State.
I don't know that they would do that.
Yeah.
I mean, they revamped the interior of their O-line.
Maybe are you going to play him at right tackle? No.
No, O'Neal's there.
Yeah.
I think the O-line's done.
Yeah, I don't see that one at all.
That's a defensive pick.
I don't see that one at all.
Unless you just want to make sure you got him in the first round. That's kind of how the Zabel pick felt, too. Like, Mel's big on that. He likes to be able to say, yeah, I had him in the first round. And he went in the first round,
25, the Texans take Josh Connerly, the offensive tackle from Oregon.
That'd be great. Cam Robinson could hold down the fort for a little,
At 26, the Rams take Jackson Dart, quarterback from Ole Miss.
That's starting to become a little chalkier now that I think the world's waking up that he's not going 21st.
At 27, the Ravens take Malachi Starks, a safety from Georgia. I could see that for them.
Their type of move.
I think that's actually who I mocked to them.
Is it?
Just because it then allows them to bring Hamilton down in the box.
Back to what he used to do.
Back to what he used to do. As opposed to, they started Darius Washington as strong safety last year.
Right.
A 5'9" strong safety.
He really should be your third guy.
Yeah.
And they've shown a propensity, Hamilton, Linderbaum, of taking non-premium positions in the first round.
Yeah.
They just have a high grade, take them.
The Lions at 28 take Donovan Ezereku, the linebacker from Boston College.
Rush seems to be the move there.
At 29, Washington takes Shamar Stewart, the defensive end from Texas A&M.
Okay. I'm surprised Mel doesn't have him going higher. Not that I would take him higher. But
Buffalo then takes Maxwell Hairston, the cornerback out of Kentucky.
He's a good player. A little undersized, but yeah.
At 31, Josh Simmons, the offensive tackle from Ohio State, goes to the Chiefs.
Okay, they need a guard, but maybe just best offensive line value available.
And at 32, James Pierce Jr., the outside linebacker from Tennessee, goes to the Eagles.
I think someone on the D-line is going to go there. No Nolan, no Grant.
No Nolan, no Grant. At 33, the Browns take Tyler Shuck, quarterback from Louisville.
I would get that.
At 34, the Giants take Jalen Milroe, quarterback from Alabama.
So I keep lumping those teams together because obviously they pick right next to each other. But if they end up landing Cousins, which I think is a good chance they do,
yeah,
what's the difference between Cousins and Pickett and Wilson and Winston. They're kind of like the same room. Like, okay, you can put in a young pup in there, or I could try to live with it and live for tomorrow. And they're kind of in the same situation.
Yeah. Igbuka goes at 36 to the Jaguars.
Okay. One more pass catcher would help.
Yeah.
I bet they could see some Chris Godwin in him from their Tampa days.
Luther Burden III goes to the Patriots at 38.
They would receiver and O-line. At least they're addressing their two needs.
39, the Bears take Walter Nolan.
I think their D-line needs some help, especially edge.
The Saints take Azirie Thomas at 40.
Corner used to be one of their strengths, but it's not anymore.
Yeah. Travion Henderson is the third back taken. He goes at 41 to the Bears.
I think they'll take it back pretty high.
Yeah.
I mean, considering they came from Detroit and Swift can't be in the long-term plans.
They wouldn't have the banger, though.
They wouldn't have the banger.
Swift can play that
nifty guy.
Role. Kenneth Grant goes at 43 to the 49ers.
Not really their style.
Yeah.
I mean, good player, and that's good value, but they're more of an upfield team.
Trey Amos, who visited the Steelers today, goes at 44 to the Cowboys, the cornerback from Ole
They can go
Miss.
so many directions, yeah.
Benjamin Morrison at 46, the cornerback from Notre Dame, to the Falcons.
While I was getting coffee, Schefter just put out that he's putting a private workout on in like a week or so.
Yeah, that's Johnson, Will Johnson.
Will Johnson doing the same.
On next Monday.
I wonder if like Abdul Carter will. A lot of these guys still have stuff looming.
I don't think Carter will because that's a
won't.
fresh foot injury.
And he's probably saying I'm going to be a top 3 pick no matter what.
Tyler Booker, the guard out of Alabama, goes at 47 to the Cardinals.
That's a good fit for them. It's late for him, but
yeah,
so many teams run this
guards,
outside zone, and he's a guard only, and it didn't test well, and he's not for every scheme.
Darius Alexander goes at 48 to the Dolphins.
Yeah, I'm glad Mel sees him in that light. His name hasn't come up much lately, but he's really good.
At 50, the Seahawks take Siobhan Revell Jr., the cornerback from East Carolina.
It's a different scheme, but he looks like a Seahawk corner.
51, the Broncos take Quinshon Judkins, the running back from Ohio State.
Yeah, I mean, Hampton was off the board when they picked in the first round.
At 52, which had been the Steelers' pick, this was the DK Metcalf trade, the Seahawks take Jaden Higgins, wide receiver from Iowa State.
Okay. Go get a big receiver
Would
that
you
you
make that swap right now, straight up?
I'd rather have DK in the contract than Higgins.
I think so, too.
Clearly,
yeah.
to be honest with you.
And I like Higgins.
I like Higgins, but I don't think he's special. I think Metcalf's way more talented. He's older and he's more expensive. I get that.
Tyleik Williams, defensive tackle out of Ohio State, goes at 56 to Buffalo.
They're often linked to Grant as a big space eater. That would be a nice consolation prize.
Jalen Noel, who's also been in for a visit with the Steelers, goes at 58 to the Texans.
They need it. I mean, he'd be your Tank Dell.
Let's see here. Darian Porter, the cornerback from Iowa State, goes at 61 to the Commanders.
I think he's going to go high. And second round's pretty high for him.
Yeah.
1-year starter.
Caleb Johnson, the running back out of Iowa, goes at 63 to the Chiefs.
They should be in the market for a running back.
Yeah. I mean, you can't just continue to string it together.
The Pachecos of the world.
Yeah.
Right.
And then finishing off round 2, Kevin Winston Jr., the safety from Penn State, goes to the Eagles.
I think he's a really, really good player. Big, physical, fast. He's a good player.
Yeah. So just a 2-round mock draft from Mel Kiper Jr. there.
I always talk about the mockers, and Mel's very dialed in with where people are going to go. Maybe not the landing spots and all that, but I bet he's within 10 picks of a lot of those where they end up going off the board.
At times.
I mean, he doesn't hit them all.
Nobody's going to hit them all.
He's pretty well dialed in.
Nobody's going to hit them all. But
right.
And the thing that you see a lot of, again, we don't know what the medicals are for a lot of these guys, and we don't know what the off-the-field stuff is for a lot of these guys. NFL teams do. And if you see a guy who everybody had pretty much consistently, he had him as first-round, second-round guy, and all of a sudden he's going in the fourth.
That's why.
Typically it's a medical issue that nobody knows anything about, or it's something off the field that nobody knows anything about.
My Steeler impression, though, was if Mel doesn't think Nolan, Grant, and Harmon start coming off the board until 21 to 35-ish, again, need 2 to tango, but I wouldn't mind moving down.
Yeah.
We do it all the time.
I just don't know who the partners would be to move up.
I'm just curious, who was on the board at 21? Besides, Dart.
Dart was there.
I mean, would the Giants
would somebody want to move up to get Zabel? Probably not.
No,
would somebody want to move up to get Michael Williams? Maybe.
They start falling.
Yeah,
that absolutely could happen. Dart would be the logical one.
Josh Connerly would be one that I could see.
Tackle.
I got to go up and get a tackle. Dart was another one.
But it'd be like the Giants or Browns.
Yeah. Nobody's probably moving up from Malachi Starks.
No.
Ezereku, Shamar Stewart.
Someone would have to love Stewart and think they can turn him into the D-line coach has them all convinced.
Josh Simmons, probably not injured.
Unless we get new reports on him somehow.
Yeah. So, I mean, if the draft falls quite this way, maybe a receiver. Since 2 receivers went right ahead of the Steelers, maybe somebody says, I got to go up and get a receiver.
Buka and Burden went pretty early in the second round.
Yeah. Maybe the Texans look at it and go, we got to
make sure we get one, right?
Yeah.
They get a bunch of future picks, too, from the Tunsil deal and things like that. Maybe.
Yeah, so.
I don't know. If you were the Steelers aside, if you're the Giants, would you give up? Well, I know the answer. Because we don't like Dart, the answer is no. But if you're the Giants and you love Dart, I'd give quite a bit to get to 21 or somewhere before the Rams.
Yeah. You think the Rams are going to be interested? Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
But where do you go? And I don't love Dart as much as I love Lamp. Everybody loves Lamp.
I love Lamp.
Yeah.
Yep. I like Milroe.
Let's get to a break. That was Mel Kiper Jr.'s latest mock on ESPN.com. He's Matt Williamson. I am Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. Matt and I will be back with more right after this. And we are back. I'm Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And Matt, our conversation to close out hour number 1 about Julio Jones and the receiver conversation got me thinking a little bit about this. And I wanted to take a look here at the Hall of Fame monitor on Pro Football Reference.
Yeah. It's a pretty cool setup.
And I know for a fact that it gets used in the conversation when you're talking about who gets into the Hall of Fame and who does not.
Yeah, right.
So looking at the wide receiver position, Jerry Rice is number 1.
The longevity is so crazy, too.
His Hall of Fame monitor score, it might be the highest of anybody. I'd have to look.
Wouldn't be shocked.
311.99.
I forget what's good. Obviously, that's like the best. But
so the average Hall of Fame wide receiver, their average score on here is 100.
Okay, so he's 3 times the average.
311.99. The next best guy is Randy Moss at 150.12.
Which is incredible.
Which is a fantastic
incredible.
Career.
Right.
He's at 3. I've never looked at this before. I'm like, holy mackerel.
That has to be
That's
the highest
insane.
at any position.
I got to look at quarterback now because the only person who could probably.
Brady, I guess, is the only one close.
Brady's at 263.03.
And Rice is over 300.
Rice is over 300.
I mean, like Lawrence Taylor,
but
Jim
he played
Brown.
18 seasons.
That's the thing is they didn't play long.
13 of them were Pro Bowl seasons. He was first-team All-Pro 10 times, and he won 3 Super Bowls. Like all those things factor into that. Oh, by the way, he got 197 touchdown catches.
I mean, he wasn't the best receiver in the league after he left the Niners, but people think he was like an old man and was like bad. He was never bad.
Yeah,
I mean, he was a Seahawk and a Raider, and like he was still getting open at 40 years old or whatever.
It's insane.
It's insane.
That's what 18 seasons as a starter.
18 years as a starter at wideout.
The amazing thing about this, going back to the Antonio Brown conversation, his score is 104.48. As I mentioned, the average Hall of Fame wide receiver is 100.
Mm-hmm.
With 11 years as a starter. Because they factor that into how many years were you an actual starter? And
Tyler just sent us Lawrence Taylor's. It's 222.5, which is pretty darn good. Yeah. It's pretty awesome too, but not 300.
It ain't 300.
Still 2/3 of it, basically.
Yeah. Wow. So Antonio Brown did that in 7 seasons as a starter.
Okay, I missed what you said there before. It was
the average Hall of Fame wide receiver has a score of 100.
Okay.
But started 11 years and made 6 Pro Bowls, 2 All-Pros, and 1 Super Bowl.
He's under 11 years starting.
He was 7-year starter, 7 Pro Bowls, 4 times first-team All-Pro, and also won a Super Bowl. He is by far, of the guys who are above the average Hall of Fame wide receiver score.
He's over 100.
He's over 100. Has the fewest seasons played by far.
I guess that doesn't surprise me. If you don't mind, who's after Moss? Like, who are the top dudes?
Marvin Harrison has a score of 147.18.
A lot of consistency there and a ton of catches.
Fitzgerald's at 141.09. He would have beaten him if he had won a Super Bowl. He'd have a higher score than Marvin Harrison, but he didn't.
Okay.
Terrell Owens.
I don't know how many years Larry has left to wait, but not many.
Yeah. I think he's eligible next year.
Is it next year?
Yeah.
Good.
Terrell Owens, 140.53. Steve Largent, who you mentioned, 136.39. James Lofton.
He's a compiler, but he had some really good years with the Packers.
Yeah, 127.61. Lance Allworth.
I was going to bring him up. I mean, because for his day, it's
like
insane.
His stats, to compare what he did at in his time from 1962 to 72, when he was putting up 1,500 yards and
when
nobody else did
right,
that.
Right.
Nobody else did that.
The other one that's crazy
He's like Babe Ruth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I always use that example. Like Babe Ruth hit more home runs than most teams. Why am I forgetting his name? The Johnny Unitas' receiver that was incredible too. Meredith. No, it's not Meredith.
Paul Warfield? No.
No. Before Mackey was the tight end. I mean, we're talking like in the 50s. He may even been before Unitas, but
Don Maynard? No, Maynard, yeah.
Was also off the charts for his era.
His score is 91.31.
Okay.
The other guys who are above.
And the footballs they played with were like these big manhole covers.
And you could kill the receivers.
Yeah, right. They didn't even like spiral.
Chris Carter is after Allworth at 122.89. Tim Brown at 113.31.
And these are all pretty easy Hall of Famers.
Reggie Wayne, 111.14.
He's not in.
He hasn't gotten in and hasn't for several years now.
No. And I'm not sure he passes the sniff test.
Torrey Holt is 109.22.
Did he just get in?
No, he still hasn't.
He's still
in.
waiting. Okay, Bruce is in.
Julio's at 108.60.
He's going to go.
Antonio Brown's 104.48.
Do you think he'll get in first ballot?
No.
I don't either.
I think the off-the-field stuff is going to affect that.
They say it's not supposed to in this Hall of Fame, but it always does. Theo didn't get in first try.
Paul Warfield. And I think there's now a situation where they don't want to put as many first-time guys in.
No, I
because there is
so.
a backlog of players that.
Mm-hmm. But you do think AB is a Hall of Famer?
Yeah.
I mean, you think he will get in?
I do too. Warfield is 101.46. He used to have an office next to his.
He was a scout with us. Yeah, he was a really good dude.
Steve Smith, 100.41.
Not in.
Not in.
No, it's a little easier nowadays.
Yeah.
But you still got to get Pro Bowls and compete with the receivers of the day.
Some of the guys below that 100 threshold. And again, Jerry Rice's number skews the
average, right?
Skews the average in a big way. He's like 3 Hall of Fame receivers.
Yeah, all wrapped into one.
So you got Isaac Bruce just under 100, Charlie Taylor just under 100, Tyreek Hill at 93.01.
He's going. I'm trying to think of some active guys that are going. Tyreek's going.
Michael Irvin.
In. He didn't throw the ball a ton either.
Andre Johnson.
Recently got in.
The aforementioned Don Maynard.
Okay.
Charlie Joyner.
What years did Maynard play?
58 to 73.
Okay. Charlie
Joyner, Art Monk.
Monk's a compiler, but did a long career.
Raymond Berry.
Mm-hmm.
Del Schofner. I'm not familiar with his work. He played from 57 to 67.
Raymond Berry's who I'm thinking of.
Yeah, that's who you're thinking of.
That's who I'm thinking of, right.
Henry Ellard.
Okay.
Calvin Johnson. Again, it's kind of the AB argument. Nine seasons as a starter, 84.19. But
so I just heard this today, just because Calvin Johnson came up. If Hunter goes 2, that'll be the highest a receiver's been drafted since Calvin Johnson, who went 2.
Yeah.
If he goes 2, it'll be the highest a cornerback's ever been drafted. No one's gone in the top 2.
Yeah.
I think some have gone 3. I think like Champ Bailey went 3 or something.
Something along,
yeah.
Just looking at some of the current Steelers on.
Like Swan and Stalls are in, but their scores aren't great.
Yeah. I'm just looking at current Steelers who are still playing. Cam Hayward is now up to 71.93 on the Hall of Fame monitor.
Mm-hmm.
The average Hall of Fame defensive tackle has a score of 102, which is crazy because you would think it wouldn't be as high as the wide receiver, but there aren't as many guys in.
Yeah.
So Aaron Donald's number 1 on the list at 181.18. Bob Lilly's second.
With all respect to like Joe Green, Aaron Donald should be 1. I mean, he won MVP after. I mean, he was the best defensive player for a long time.
Bob Lilly second, Randy White third, Alan Page fourth, Joe Green is fifth.
Okay.
With the Hall of Fame on him.
Yeah.
So again, Hayward's making a push here to.
If he has 10 sacks next year, I bet he's in.
If he gets another 8 sack season, he's probably again.
Do you know how many sacks he has off the top of your head?
88.5.
Okay. I mean, if he gets to 100, it's a done deal.
I think so.
Yeah.
Looking at where
playoff wins matter, though, right?
They do.
Yeah.
Playoff wins, Super Bowls, that kind of stuff matters. T.J. Watt on the Hall of Fame monitor
is really high, right?
Yeah. Lawrence Taylor's number 1 at edge rusher, outside linebacker.
222 or whatever.
222.55. Derek Brooks, 164.5. Jack Ham, 141.68.
It's weird comparing those two, but yeah.
Yeah. Ted Hendricks, 136.20, and then Junior Seau is number 5 at 121.98. The average outside linebacker score is 103.
For a Hall of Famer.
Khalil Mack right under that right now at 101.5. Von Miller's at 100.48. The 3 guys after him on this list are all in.
Von Miller's going to go too.
Yeah, Derek Thomas, Kevin Green, DeMarcus Ware, all in the Hall of Fame. Then you get the Terrell Suggs at 95.3.
He didn't get in this year.
He didn't get in this year.
Allen did.
Then you got Larry Grantham at 85.5. And then T.J. Watt at 77.55.
Still churning.
He's going to be a top 10 all-time guy on this list.
I remember we did this like 2 mini camps ago. So it was like 2 seasons ago. And him and Mahomes had like the exact same case.
Yeah.
I mean, they really had like comparable. Mahomes had more playoff stuff, I mean, obviously. But their numbers were about the same compared to their respective positions.
If you look at what Watt has done, in terms of the 8 seasons as a starter, 7-time Pro Bowl player, 4-time first-team All-Pro, everybody else around him on this list has played at least 10 years. The average Hall of Famer plays 12.
Wow.
Average.
What year will this be for him?
This is his 8th season.
This is 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, this would be 9.
Okay. Huh.
So when people talk about Cam, people talking
too.
about him, well, he's almost at the end of his career. The average Hall of Fame edge rusher. Outside linebacker, plays 12 years.
Plays 12 years to get in.
Yeah. Lawrence Taylor played 13.
Yeah. I meant to say this about Cam, too. Getting that first-team All-Pro this year
helps your case a
lot.
A lot.
I mean, I think Watt was a second-team All-Pro, which is still really helps your case. But
not as much as the first, because they only list the first-team All-Pros on here.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
but he may have a first-teamer. It's still in store the next couple of years.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Is Garrett much behind him? I know he's behind him.
I don't know if they list Garrett, probably with the defensive ends.
Oh, yeah.
So Garrett, Myles Garrett's at 74.2.
Okay.
What we say, TJ?
He was over 100, wasn't he? No, he was under 100.
TJ's at 77.55.
Okay.
So close.
Close, yeah.
One was the number 1 overall pick in the draft, and the other one was the 28th pick in the draft.
I mean, Watt's
in the same draft.
Numbers and stats and case is stronger to me.
Yeah. Just looking here at the safety position, they list all defensive backs the same, which is kind of weird because they do break down.
That's kind of like Jack Ham and Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah.
And aren't the same.
Just looking here where Minkah Fitzpatrick is at on this list.
I would think he has a lot of work to do.
Yeah, he's at 41.55, but again, only 6 seasons as a starter. So
I bet there's not many safeties that have played less than 10 years.
Yeah, it's tough.
You'd definitely have to have longevity.
Yeah. I mean, Emmett Thomas is the lowest rated guy, defensive back who's in. He's at 52.85. Then you're looking at Ken Riley at 54.85.
Okay.
So he's getting into that range.
Yeah.
Eric Allen got in. He's a 58.95.
The safeties have been underwhelming that have gone in to me lately.
But these are guys that played 11. Emmett Thomas played 11 years. Ken Riley played 15. Eric Allen played 14. These guys hang around. John Lynch played 13. He's in at 64.28. Minka Fitzpatrick's going to be, by the time he retires, he's going to be in that range.
That's the thing, is as long as injuries don't derail it, he's as good a player as some of those. Again, I think, they're Hall of Famers. That's great, but they didn't blow me away as John Lynch is the best safety. He's not Ed Reed or Paul Malu or, Brian Dawkins was better than those guys.
So Donnie Shell finished at 68.88.
And he got in.
And he got in?
Veterans Committee's a little different, obviously. Well, last Steeler note, where is Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers? I think Rodgers is in now. I know that. But I'm just curious where they stack up. And obviously quarterback's a different world.
Russell Wilson, the average Hall of Famer is at 108.
Okay.
Russell Wilson right now is at 93.65. But again, you got Tom Brady at 263.03. Peyton Manning's at 257.80.
Wow.
They skew the...
How many MVPs does Manning have? I think 3 or 4.
Yeah. Number 3 on the list is Aaron Rodgers.
I'd say Rodgers has to be top 5.
He's at 197.26.
He's ahead of Montana.
He's ahead of Brett Favre. He's ahead of Johnny Unitas. He's ahead of Joe Montana, Drew Brees, John Elway, Dan Marino, Fran Tarkenton, Steve Young.
3 MVPs too? 4 for Rodgers.
Yeah.
That's pretty remarkable. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if Wilson's going to get in. Rodgers could have retired 5 years ago.
Yeah, Wilson never first-team All-Pro. That's going to hurt him.
Mm-hmm.
But
the last couple of years are going to hurt him.
Yeah, 12 years as a starter, 10 as a Pro Bowl player. That's going to help. Mm-hmm. And he's still going to compile. He's right behind Terry Bradshaw.
What's the quarterback average?
The quarterback average is 108.
Where's Mahomes?
Mahomes, as we speak, is at... Well, where is he? Oh, there he is. 102.0.
So he's still below the average.
He's still below the average, but he's ahead. He just moved past Ben Roethlisberger, in fact. Ben Roethlisberger's at 100.28.
His case is crazy. I wonder where Lamar and Allen are.
Lamar is at 81.4.
Okay.
So
they're on the road.
Yeah. And Allen is at 60.13.
Okay.
Because he's never been a first-team All-Pro. And he hasn't won a Super Bowl.
And he won the MVP last year, but wasn't a first-team All-Pro.
Right?
Yeah. So I wonder, Lamar got first-team All-Pro. Allen got the MVP. They're probably about equal weight. And most times you get both.
Yeah.
If you get one, you almost always get the other.
Yeah.
Huh.
So
I think they're both going.
Allen just moved past Jim Kelly on the all-time list.
Kelly was great, but I think Allen's the best Bills quarterback ever.
Yeah. Different eras.
Yeah. Right.
Anyways, let's get to a break. He is the Matt Williamson. I'm Dale Lolley. You're listening to The Drive here on the Steelers Audio Network. You can hear this show every Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. right here on these very airwaves. You can also download the Steelers mobile app or watch or listen along on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up. You can check that out on the Steelers.
All that good stuff.
On their channel on YouTube and find it there. Or you can just search out The Drive on YouTube.
Any podcast network you use, too.
They're all out there. Give us a thumbs up there. Leave us your comments. He's Matt Williamson. I'm Dale Lolley. We'll be back to finish up the show right after this. Welcome back. I am Dale Lolley. He is the Matt Williamson. And, Matt, I got to ask you this question.
All right. Bring it on.
If an NFL head coach taught a class at a nearby university or any university, would you sign up for that class?
Yeah, I would have as a 3-year-old, a 13-year-old, a 23-year-old, a 33-year-old. Yeah. Any portion of my life I would have. Absolutely.
Because according to Sam Farmer and Gary Klein of the LA Times, and know Sam, he's got family in Newcastle.
Okay.
He's been on our show at the Combine before. Pete Carroll has continued to teach a class at USC.
So he did while he was out of football.
That's what he was doing when he was out of football. He has continued teaching that class while head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders.
I assume it's Zoom or whatever. He's not.
The class is called
anymore.
The Game is Life. It has 3 weekly sessions for its 56 students. 300 people applied for the class.
I bet everyone applied for it.
Yeah.
Right.
Here's the cool thing about it.
There's so many cool things.
He's had his some of the guests that he's had come on to help with the class.
Yeah.
And you're in L.A., so it helps. Steve Kerr, Jason Sakaitis, I can't pronounce his last name.
Yeah.
Rainn Wilson, who was Dwight Schrute on
Okay.
on the
so they're not all football people, obviously.
No, he's just bringing in people and just
He said what the name of the class is? Football is Life or something like that, you said?
The Game is Life.
The Game is Life. Okay. Interesting. I'm sure there's a lot of different success stories.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he's not breaking down blocking angles and footwork and pass protection and, how to run this play or, cover 3 zones and things like that.
And just
maybe he's just
talking about life.
Yeah.
Apparently he does do he's honored his commitment via Zoom. He's only missed one class, and that was during the Combine.
Okay. Somewhere in my attic is a bunch of coaches' leadership books. There was a couple years there, probably pre-internet, when I was like teens, 20s. There's a lot of good leadership books out there, and this kind of has that feel to it where, there's a lot of football talk in there, but it's like...
You learn a lot of stuff in football.
Yeah, I remember Bobby Bowden's book. He said, my rule for hiring my staff is they have to be incredibly eager and preferably smarter than me, which he'll laugh at himself. He's like, that's not the highest bar to get over. He's like, I can coach them to coach.
Yeah.
If they have those 2 things, I'll turn them into a tight end coach. But if they don't, well, then, maybe they're just, they don't have the ceiling, and a lot of his guys went on to be super great head coaches,
Yeah. Just thought that was interesting.
Yeah,
that would be
interesting, yeah.
That would be fun. I'm going to Professor Carroll's class right now.
It'd be incredible. Right.
And he's a high energy guy,
and I bet he still is a blast.
I wonder if
he's high on the list of.
Can they get him
coaches.
to sit down for the Zoom?
I bet.
Or does he just get up and walk around and chew gum and
And maybe it's a whole setup like this where there's cameras everywhere and
Could
he's
be.
over in the air and doing a little bit of that.
Won't the Raiders take part in this and like their video people have to? Hey, we got to go set up
last
for
time,
coach.
right?
Yeah.
I got to go. I bet they do. I mean, if it was Tomlin, don't you think all these folks we do videos with would be involved? Making it look good.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Right.
You know some people.
Yeah, absolutely. He'd have some cool guests too.
I would actually, if I'm Pete, and I'm not, I might have my players like, hey, you guys got to sit and watch this class as part of this. Like, this is me. This is what I'm about.
I'm new to the Raiders. Here's all the classes I taught last year. Optional, but
it's optional.
Highly preferred.
If I were a Raiders player and I didn't know anything about Pete Carroll, what's he like? I'm going to go watch.
I would go find it too. Yeah. I wonder if I'm sure it's online.
I would make it available.
I mean, even if I didn't attend the class, can we watch it now? It's probably on YouTube somewhere.
Maybe.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Although maybe USC has some
rules on that.
Rules on that, like it's their intellectual property.
I could see people doing that though. I mean, like going into announcing is a lot less work than being a head coach. But it's still, you're on the road and you're prepping for a game and you're on TV.
Okay. So, I mean, we've done shows with Max Starks, and he talked about he went to the boot camp.
Oh, yeah.
For NFL players to go learn about this. And his teacher was Greg Cosell.
Yeah.
One of the people who worked with him on that. We had Greg on at the Combine, and then Max and Greg were, hey, how you doing? I'm
right.
How do you guys know each other?
Yeah, broadcaster boot camp.
Yeah.
I thought about getting involved at some point, but I don't really want to be a play-by-play guy, or that wasn't really my calling, or sitting there with a microphone necessarily, doing like halftime show. I'd rather do this, But I kind of looked into it a little bit too. Yeah. There's a lot of those kind of opportunities out there.
Yeah, so it's just.
But I can see coaches doing that. I bet he's not the first to teach a class.
Probably not. No, probably
do something like
not.
that on the side.
The fact that he's still doing it and fulfilling that commitment
really
while the head coach of the Raiders is.
And he's like late into his 70s, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
you think Belichick's teaching a class at North Carolina?
I don't know.
Mumbling 101.
Right.
How to deal with the media.
Yeah,
101.
Media 101. Yeah. I look bright and cheery on camera.
Shuffle my papers while I'm talking to him on the phone. All that fun stuff. Don't answer any questions.
I am real curious what he looks like as a college recruiter, head coach, new organization, all those things. And I think there is a hard knocks, but I don't know that I trust that it's really what you're going to see,
Yeah, for sure. But
that's crazy about Carroll.
Yeah. That's going to do it for today's show.
All right.
How about that? We'll be back again tomorrow with the Dean of Doom.
Yeah.
The Lord of Living in His Fears. He will drop by, and maybe Justin will have some new music for him tomorrow.
Stuff's already pretty good.
Keep throwing different curveballs at Bob. Anyways, for my partner, Matt Williamson, for Justin Miller here on site running the Justin Miller hotline and the soundboard, and for Tyler Ventmeyer making sure the video gets out there on the YouTube. Give us a thumbs up on there. I am Dale Lolley. We thank you for listening to this edition of The Drive on the Steelers Audio Network.
Steelers football happens here. The Pittsburgh Steelers Audio Network.